And boop. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Cool as a cucumber. Let's get this started, shall we? Can I hop into my own and mute it to avoid having any feedback issues? Cool, cool, cool. So, we are building Black Panther Wakandan King today, which is no shock because I brought it up last week. So yeah, Black Panther Wakandan King is a Naya commander for just Naya. He's a 2/2 first striker, which is pretty nice. Whenever he or another creature enters the battlefield under our control, we get to put a +1/+1 counter onto a land. Then, we could pay 3 to mine Vibranium, moving all +1/+1 counters from a single land onto a single creature. And we're also going to gain life equal to the difference, or not the difference rather, but the number of counters moved, as well as drawing a card. So, the way I'm thinking about building this deck is honestly a lot of token generation to ensure that we're pumping out a ton of +1/+1 counters, as well as some +1/+1 counter synergies. So yeah, I think that makes the most sense, and I think it's the way that we're going to kind of go. So, right off the bat, I know that I want Adeline Resplendent Cathar. 580, cool, under $10, is all I care about. What else would I want? Let me go over to Scryfall. We're going to do an advanced search. Our commander is white and green, and we want to say creature token. We'll hit search. We want to do an EDH rec rank. So some of these are decent. Tireless Provisioner actually makes a lot of sense. We do care about lands, so Tireless Provisioner. I saw that Scoot Swarm, and I'm pretty sure Scoot Swarm is cheap enough. Yep, $2. Scoot Swarm is actually really good in this deck, so we're happy to have them. Avenger of Zendikar also does +1/+1 counter shenanigans, so I think Avenger of Zendikar makes sense, and I guarantee it's cheap. Yep, under $2. Avenger of Zendikar could make its way in. Idol of Oblivion makes sense. You could make an argument for the Academy Manufacturer, because we're going to be running the Tireless pair, but I'm going to leave them out for a moment. But let's get the Idol of Oblivion in. I don't know if Field of the Dead is cheap enough. Field of the Dead. How expensive are you? Far too expensive. So no, Field of the Dead, you do not get to go in. Even though you'd be a great addition, because we're doing budget builds. Parallel Lives I know is far too expensive. I bet the Rampaging Baloths is cheap enough, though. Rampaging... yeah, 40 cents. So, Landfall creates us a beast, which is going to give us more counters, which we're going to be able to move around. In fact, I know for a fact that I think it's Jaheira. Is that how you spell it? No, that's Joyra. I want Friend of the Forest. There we go. Jaheira, Friend of the Forest. So, Jaheira is a nice little 2/3. Makes it so all of our tokens are going to be able to tap for green, and that's going to do wonders for us, right? We're creating a bunch of tokens anyways, and if we're not attacking with them, we may as well be able to activate Black Panther Wakandan King. Helm of the Host is probably too expensive. Is it? Helm of the Host. How expensive are... You know what? It's cheap enough. And actually, because we're going to be ramping hard, I think Helm of the Host actually makes a lot of sense here. Right, we equip it to Black Panther. Every combat, we create another Black Panther, which will trigger Survey the Realm for each of them, giving us 2+1/+1 counters, so on and so forth. Right, we're gonna ramp up how many counters we're producing. Forbidden Orchard. Whenever you tap Forbidden Orchard for mana, you give away a token. We're not really trying to do that. Maskwood Nexus is fine. I think if we were going for more of a typal strat, Maskwood Nexus would be an auto-include, but for now I'm going to skip it. Treasure Vault is a fine land, but we're not really doing like a treasure sort of theme to it, so I'm going to say no to that. Second Harvest is stupid good, and I'm hoping stupid cheap. Second Harvest. Under $10. Second Harvest, you've made the cut. Ooh, the Mere Battlesphere is tempting, because it's going to generate us 5 bodies for 7 mana, which isn't bad. And whenever we attack, we can tap those mirror to make it like a little bigger. But I'm more concerned about the bodies. But I think there's a better option. So I'm going to say no to the Mer Battlesphere for now, but we might come back to it at some point. Old Gnawbone is honestly good, but it's not going to, it doesn't really fit the theme, right? I'm trying to keep this like highly synergistic and not just good stuff. Wormcoil, I imagine you're too expensive. No, there's a couple copies of you that are under $10. Do we include Wormcoil? It feels kind of like more good stuff. Same with like the Old Gnawbone. I'm going to skip Wormcoil for now as well. Again, we might come back to it. Ugin doesn't really make any sense at all, so we're skipping that. Oketra's Monument, whenever, so white creature spells specifically cost us 1 less. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we get to create a 1/1 warrior token. I think that's pretty good. So Oketra's Monument, I guarantee you are cheap. Yep, like $3. Oketra's Monument, welcome to the team. Gilded Goose really belongs in a food deck, so I'm going to skip that. Peregrine Took, again, is kind of like pushing us towards doing like a food sort of theme to this, and I don't think that's the way that I really want to go. So again, we're going to skip it. Awaken the Woods is kind of super strong for us, because it's creating 4 Striated Land creature tokens. And as they each enter, I could give them each counters, I could put all the counters on one of them and make it just like a really big land creature. So Awaken the Woods. How expensive are you? A little too expensive. Okay, that's fair. Sorry, Awaken the Woods. Terastodon destroys up to 3 permanents, gives the controller of those permanents creatures. So, while it's good, it's not what we're specifically looking for, so I'm going to skip that. If at any point you feel like I'm making a mistake, just shout it out in the comments. I'm keeping an eye on them. But Titania, Protector of Argoth. Enters, return a land from grave to field. Whenever a land you control is put into the grave, you get to create a Deuter. We're not doing a bunch of land sacrifice. So although you're good, you're not going to join us here. The Shire. Also doesn't make sense here. We're going to skip it. Gallic Readers is a little tempting, because we are doing a token strat, so we should be able to get off at least one or two of these modes every turn, so I think Gallic Raiders could join us. Yeah, 23 cents. Gallic Raiders, you made the cut. Arasta of the Endless Web. Yeah, I think Arasta of the Endless Web makes sense here, right? We're going to punish our opponents. Arasta of the Endless Web, 25 cents. Phenomenal. Replicating Ring is fine. I don't think it makes sense here, so we are going to skip it. Azuri's Predation, I think, is super cheap to pick up, and it's a nice field wipe for us. Yeah, 34 cents, easy include for us. Primal Vigor, if one or more tokens will be put onto the battlefield, twice that many are instead. If one or more +1/+1 counters, twice instead. So it is symmetrical, right? So our opponents also get to take advantage of it. But is it cheap enough? It is cheap enough. I'm going to include it because I don't think we could afford, with the $10 limit per card, any of the other really strong token doubling effects. Garuk. So your plus ability creates us a Deuter, your minus ability draws us cards, and your ultimate creates a worm for each land we control. I think that's pretty good, and I think it makes sense to include Garuk. Primal Hunter. Zendikar's Royal. Landfall creates a dude. I think Zendikar's Royal also makes sense here. Zendikar's Royal. Thank you. 87 cents, so easy add. Hornet Queen is pretty good, right? 4 bodies for 7 mana, and they're all Death Touchers, so it's a little bit of a ways of saying, hey, don't attack me. So Hornet Queen. And they fly, and so we have the ability to move those +1/+1 counters around. So we could make a very beefy, very large flyer off the Hornet Queen. Prosperous Innkeeper effectively costs 1, right, because we're getting a treasure back. And it's going to gain us life. We're not doing life gain necessarily, so I'm going to put Prosperous Innkeeper on hold for a moment. We might come back to it. Moving down to Trading Post. Trading Post is a pretty good utility piece. And we could pay 1 life to create a goat that we're basically using as a chump blocker, which we'll eventually sack. Yeah, I think we could do Trading Post. As well as Awakening Zone and Tendershoot Dryad if they're both cheap enough. Awakening Zone is Tendershoot Dryad. Skyclave doesn't really make sense, neither does Dark Depths. Bootlegger Stash is good, but is not specifically the kind of strat that we're looking for. The Skullport Nexus. Whenever one more non-token creatures you control die, you create a fungus where it's the base power and toughness of all of them. Because it's non-token, I'm going to skip it. Imperious Perfect could create us an elf. They do beef our elves up, but we're not doing an elf build. We definitely could have gone that route, right? Black Panther just has an elf army. But I think we're going to say no. Bloodforged Battle Axe also doesn't do what we want. Elvish Warmaster, again, would be like if we were taking Black Panther and just making him a Naya elf commander. Hangerback Walker is an interesting choice, and if we were sacking and recurring things... Like, he technically works really well in this deck with Trading Post. I am going to include the Hangerback Walker. Pest Infestation. Destroy up to X target artifacts or enchantments. Create twice X pests. Yeah, I think Pest Infestation is fine for us, right? Pest Infestation. Horn of Gondor creates us a human, and it can also tap to create us more humans based on the number of humans we already control, so Horn of Gondor. Mirix is a repeatable source of token generation at 4 mana, which is a little pricey. So I think I'm going to skip it. Mycolith is a 5 cost with Devour 2. Beginning of upkeep, you get to create a Saproling for each counter on it. Mycolith makes so much sense here. Let's see if it's cheap enough. Indeed it is. Arachnogenesis is also really good. I'm hoping it's cheap enough. Arachnogenesis. Yep, 71 cents. Easy add. Dousing Dagger creates us 2 plants. Could transform to be a land. It's definitely not bad, but it's not, you know, everything we're looking for. Ren and 7 gets us lands to hands and fills up grave. Puts lands onto the battlefield. Creates a tree folk. I'm going to say no to that. Green Sleeves. Green Sleeves is pretty good for us. Let's see if Green Sleeves is cheap enough. Nope, he is far too expensive. Collector's Vault doesn't do it for us. Springheart Nantuko, I am hoping is cheap enough, because I do like the Springheart Nantuko for this. It is in fact cheap enough. Treasure Map is honestly fine. But it's not really doing specifically what we're looking for, so we're going to skip it for now. Phyrexian Triniform is kind of the same. We're going to skip it. Oh yeah, Scurry Oak. Scurry Oak. And Scurry Oak combos off with... what is that card? Scurry Oak. What do you combo with? Boop, 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 boop. I forget. If anyone knows, go ahead and let me know now, and if not, not a big deal. Warping Whale could counter a sorcery, create us an Eldrazi, or exile a thing, which isn't bad, but it's not really what we're trying to do. Triplicate Titan needs to die, so I'm going to say no to that. I think Giant Adaphage would be kind of cool for this deck. Let's run it, assuming it's cheap enough. Giant Adaphage, there it is, 22 cents. Sanctum of Nature wants to do more mill stuff than anything, so I'm going to skip it. Sandworm Convergence is super strong for us. And I know how to spell sandworm. Convergence, super cheap. Nissa creates us. Deuter's based on her loyalty. Destroys artifacts. Yeah, if Nissa's cheap enough, I'm pretty happy to include them here. Nissa. Ascended Animist. Yep. Nice and budget for us. Many Partings is fine. We haven't really touched our ramp. Let's actually touch on our mana base a little bit with Soul Ring. Arcane Signet. Not Signer. Signet. Let me actually just hit EDH Rex real quick, because it should have... We're obviously going to include some of these. Creatures tap for mana of any color, that's good. Canopy Vista is good. Jacked Rabbit is $5. Felidar Retreat is good. Path is good. March. We'll take a Cultivate and a Beast Within. Yeah, Doubling Season's too expensive. Awakening in the Woods is too expensive. Temple Garden is slightly too expensive. Champion of Lambhold makes so much sense. We're doing a token build. We'll do the Sun Petal Grove. We'll take this. Basically any non-basic that's under... Oh, nope, sorry, you're a little too expensive. Go away. We'll do the Aura Mutation. May as well ramp a little bit. We'll take the Nature's Lore. Yep, Kutsil makes so much sense. Ocelot Pride would be great, but it's too expensive. Innkeepers would be great, but it's too expensive. Gavany Township is cool. We'll take a Gavany. We'll take a Karn's Bastion. I don't want to go too deep. I really came in here to find the green-white mana rocks, and I got a little sidetracked. Caretaker's Talent would be cool. It's slightly too expensive. We'll take Elspeth. We'll take Shamanic. Skull Clamp's a little tempting, but we're going to say no to it. I think we can afford to maybe do an Hour of Reckoning. Flawless Maneuver is good. I need to get out of here because I'm just going to keep doing this. I mean, this obviously isn't the worst way to build the deck, but it's not the way I want to build the deck, right? I'd prefer that I were hand-picking things. Through my own searches, but Aura Shards is so fucking rude, and it's gonna get us hard targeted, but I'm gonna include it. Growing Rights of Itlimoc is stupid good. I don't know that I need the Yavimaya Cradle of Growth. Card draw is tempting. Yeah, we'll take John Stewart. Comet of Whispered Hopes is obvious. So badly do I want to be able to include the Ozolith, but I can't. We'll do the Sungrass Prairie. We'll do an Evolution Sage. I call the Coppercoats. Halo Fountain's obviously going in. Intangible Virtue is strong here, though it kind of non-bows with the Halo Fountain, so let's actually take it away. We'll do Temple of Plenty. We'll do the Rogue's Passage. Here we go. These are the things I was actually looking for, which is the Signet. That Overwhelming Stampede could be a finisher for us. Rabble Rousing is stupid strong. Chroma's Will is another finisher. The Emeria Angel is good. Let's go back to my deck list after adding in the Porcelain Gallery. Where am I at in terms of cards? I'm at 96 cards. So we basically just finished the deck, which is not what I intended to do. But, I mean, like, we had a good foundation. You know, we were about halfway through building the deck, I think, before jumping into this. So, 29 creatures, a lot of which are going to generate us tokens. Five ramp spells. It's pretty decent. We only have 21 lands, so we're definitely going to be making cuts here. In fact, let me... What's our mana curve in this deck? Pretty low, honestly. But I still think I want 35 lands to be in the deck, which means I need another 15. So we'll do 8 more of these, bring this up to 9. And we'll bring this up to 8. So I need to cut 11 cards. So let's get to cutting. Let's switch this printing. I don't know that we're going to keep you, but I just want to get one that's in English. So you're only going to create us one. But you're like a potentially good finisher. In fact, we could have you finish us off immediately. So we're keeping you. We're going big. I'm actually going to remove the Elspeth. It's so much card draw from Garruk. I'm going to keep Garruk for the card draw. It's like, you are good. You're generating us a bunch of tokens, and even if those tokens don't live, they still gave +1/+1 counters to our lands, which we can move. And importantly, Mind Vibranium isn't an instant, or it's not a sorcery speed only effect, right? So we could use it as a combat trick. So you could stay. This is dependent on what our opponents are doing to trigger, which isn't the worst, but it's also not the best. It costs 4 mana, which is on the higher end for this deck, which isn't, again, end of the world, but it's not as optimal, I guess you would say, as it possibly could be. Let me move you to considering for now. You are just ramp, and I don't know that I need that much ramp. I'm going to move the Pilgrim and the Bop over. Avenger of Zendikar is going to create us a ton of bodies when it enters, and it's going to pass out +1/+1 counters, which I like. Whenever this deals damage to a player for each token I control, I get to create another token. And I think that's great. I think we're going to keep them. Champion is a rude dude with a bad tude. We're definitely keeping them. Whenever we cast a creature spell, we get a soldier that has training, and I think that's pretty decent for what the deck's doing. Is it decent enough? I'm going to move John Stewart to considering. We might come back to them. So Amiria Angel. We got to get rid of 6 more things here. So 4 cost, 3/3 flyer, which is good. We don't have a ton of flying at this point. The landfall, which we're only really getting 1 land a turn. But that token that it generates is another flyer, right? And the flyers combined with the +1/+1 counters that we're generating for having the creatures enter potentially makes these creatures deadly, right? So I think Amiria Angel makes sense to stick around. Enduring Vitality is basically another copy of Jaheira, Friend of the Forest. Slightly harder to cast, but it also sticks around if it dies, because it just comes back as just an enchantment as opposed to an enchantment creature. So I like Enduring Vitality. Evolution Sage. Does the landfall proliferate? And with us doing +1/+1 counters, there's no way I'm getting rid of him. Honestly, I don't know that I want to cut very many more creatures at all. We're already at 25. Oh, you know what? I didn't grab the thing that you combo with. Does anyone in chat know offhand what Scurry Oak combos with? I could look it up and I'm happy to do so, but if someone happens to know offhand, that'd be great. Man, that lag, that latency is kind of strong. I'm going to look into settings to see if I could shorten that. That way feedback's a little quicker for me. But I know there's an infinite combo with the Scurry Oak. Alright, let me do a bulk edit real quick. Take this over to my combo finder. Get rid of that old list, put in this new one, find me combos. Oh, it looks like it does combo off with Rosy Cotton at the very least, which is nice. And I'll know it when I see it. Ivy Lane Denizen is what it is. But I think I'm going to leave Ivy Lane out. We apparently can go infinite already with Rosy Cotton. I'm usually like a bit of a whore for infinite combos, so like putting in the Kodama of the East Tree is super tempting. What is this? I've never even heard of this card. Perilous Forays. Sacks a creature. Grabs a land. Puts it into play tapped and shuffles. That's kind of interesting. I'm not going to run it. Even though it's begging me to. There's so many things it combos with. I might run it, and then have to cut another card. Yeah, you know what, we're gonna run it. Perilous Forays. Assuming it's cheap enough anyways. Perilous. There we go. Yeah, it's like 61 cents. Perilous Forays, welcome to the the deck. We have to cut 1 more card now to make room for you, but that's okay. Jaheira is obviously good. I still think I might just leave it. let's leave my creatures alone for a moment. Let's move down a little bit. So we have 2 field clears with the Hour of Reckoning and the Azorius Predation. Both of which, in a sense, are one-sided, right? Azorius Predation is strictly one-sided, where Hour of Reckoning is semi-one-sided, right? We'd have to go back and recast at least our commander, and a bunch of the creatures up here we kind of don't want to have just die off, because we're not really running any recursion. So I think I'm going to go ahead and move Hour of Reckoning to the considering pile. 6 more cards need cut. Honestly, I feel like I have too many ramp spells as well. How many of these lands have land types? So the Lush Portico does. The Canopy Vista does. Honestly, just 2 of them have types. Let me cut the Cultivate. Let me cut the Rampant Growth. That drops us down to 4 things that need to be cut. Right, we still have a field clear. We have a finisher here. We have Mass Artifact and Enchantment Destruction with the Pest Infestation. We're still running 3 ramps, which again, like, our mana curve is low. Let's move on and maybe come back to cutting some of those. Akroma's Will is a finisher for us. Arachnogenesis is a bit of protection. Aura Mutation is single target removal, but it does create a Saprolings based on the cost of the enchantment that we destroy. But it also only destroys enchantments, so it's a situation of how often do we feel it'll be dead in hand? And it's a fair question to ask, I feel. Let's say we are going to move this to considering. Beast Within is also single target removal. And with our big field wipe, I'm going to say Beast Within could be passed on for now. Call the Coppercoats is stupid good. Flawless Maneuver is protection, as is Heroic Intervention. March of the Multitudes is just kind of stupid good for us. Path and Second Harvest, as well as Secure the Wastes, all feel too strong. We did keep a Sundering Growth for that. Single target removal, but it also hits artifacts and it populates us, so I think it's a better value. Swords is single target, but I like it. And it's like, should that matter? I don't know. Maybe. We have 4 mana rocks, cost reduction, and token generation. Card draw, token generation, and increases our +1/+1 counters. Token generation, card draw, and win con. So I think we leave our artifacts alone. Part of me wants to cut Aura Shards just because it's rude as fuck. But it feels too strong, you know, like... The Awakening Zone is more ramp. I don't know that we need the additional ramp. It's also going to guarantee us a +1/+1 counter every turn, but a lot of our token generation is repeatable. So again, I don't know that we need it. So I'm going to move it to considering. Dollmaker's Shop and Porcelain Gallery are super strong here. Right, it's token generation for 2 mana, which is good. And once we have enough mana, all of our creatures are just fucking huge. So I'd like to keep the Porcelain Gallery. Felidar Retreat either beefs our whole field or gives us a token. Either's good. Growing Rites of Itlimoc will very quickly transform and be a lot of mana. So I don't want to get rid of it. The Perilous Forays is the card we found by looking for combos on the Find Our Combo site. And I put it in, so I don't want to remove it. And it looks like it was reprinted in Ravnica Remastered. Is that true? Yeah, nah, Ravnica Remastered. I probably have copies of this. Interesting. Primal Vigor, we could argue, could be cut. Because it's symmetrical. And we're not really, we don't tend to, I don't know. Let me look up a ruling for Primal Vigor. Primal Vigor moving token, or moving counters, rather. You remove it from on whatever it's moving to. Quinny, stop it. I think the mail's here. I apologize for my dog barking. Yeah, let me just look at this Judge post. Hey Judge, if my opponent controls Primal Vigor and then moves a +1/+1 counter off a creature with craft onto another creature entering the field, the new creature only gets 1 +1/+1 counter, right? No, it gets 2. To move a counter, you remove it from what it was on and place it. So I think we do keep Primal Vigor, because that basically lets us double up the +1/+1 counters that we've been generating. I love Rabble Rousing. It's so stupid. It's so stupid good. I feel like it's so underrated, honestly. Which leaves us with either Sandworm Convergence or Zendikar's Royal. And I think the correct call for cuts is the Sandworm Convergence. So we're going to throw it over into considering. That gets us down to 100. Our curve is pretty decent. What's 8? Oh, the Azorius Predation and the Dollmaker's Shop thing. Yeah, I mean, like, we don't have a ton at... What is 0? Oh, the Hangerback 0. But I think we have a decent curve. Let's play test a couple hands and see how we do, basically. So starting off, right, first hand, we have access to all of our mana colors, right? We got the Bountiful Promenade as well as 2 forests. So I'd probably keep this hand. We'll draw for turn, as is the nature of Commander. We'll play the Promenade before anyone happens to get knocked out. Not that it makes a difference, because we don't have a turn 1 play here. We'll go next turn. We'll play the Forest into... Go to a Black Panther. He's a first strike into 2, so that's actually pretty good for turn 2. Next turn, we could play another Forest. And now it's like, do we play Champion? Or do we play Rosy Cotton? And I think the correct answer is to play Champion. So we'll play champion, we'll add a counter to, we'll say, the Bountiful Promenade. Really hoping we start drawing more lands here. I mean, obviously we have a couple other plays. And by a couple, I mean literally just Rosy Cotton and, like, some removal. But we'll go next turn. We didn't, but we did get the Horn of Gondor, which I do like. So we'll play the Horn of Gondor. That'll add us a human. The human will add a counter. And these actually all happen to be humans. So next turn, I can tap this for 3 if I want to create 3 more humans, which will give me, 5 counters here. This human entering will also add a counter onto the champion. So things that have 2 power or less can't block our stuff. Next turn, we did get a brush land, so we're happy about that. We'll play the brush land. I think I'm going to play the Rosy Cotton. That would add us a food token. When that token comes in, we get to put a +1/+1 counter onto another creature, and champion will also trigger. So we'll put them both on champion. So now, unless they have 4 power, they're not stopping us. Hit next turn. This will be the last turn, and then we'll hit a restart. Because obviously this hand iteration is going well. We'll play the Plains. Also, I should have put a counter onto this when Rosy Cotton came in. But we'll play a Plains. We have access to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. And honestly, I think the correct call is to pay 3 for this, create 3 more guys, which will add 3 here, 3 here, and we'll say 3 onto Black Panther, right? So if I set you up to 6 for them coming in, set you to 3 off Rosy Cotton's triggers. Right, we got 3 more of these. This is tapped. We paid for it like that, leaving up our colors, as is the correct way to play. So now we have a 5/5 commander. We're 1 mana shy of moving. Any of these, this also gets a bunch, right? It was Black Panther, so it was already at 3. We get 3 more, so this is also up to 6. Really wishing I had 1 more mana here. That way on attack, right, I could just move these up to Black Panther. He'd be +9, so 11 damage. Basically unblockable, because I doubt they have a 7/7 on, turn 6. But that was a great, goldfish. Let's try again. Again, we have access to all of our colors. Our earliest play in hand is the Sundering Growth, which isn't super strong. I mean, it's fine early, but we don't have any tokens to populate. So in that sense, we don't really want to use it this early. But we do have a turn 2 with our commander, as always. A turn 3 with Kutzil. A turn 3 with Evolution Sage. Either of which are fine. Let's play it out. So let's draw a card. We could reveal, or we could just do this. I think this is the better play. We don't have a turn 1 play, so that'll enter tapped. Not a big deal. We'll go to next turn. We could play this. I don't mind revealing the fact that we have a forest and playing our commander, which actually does trigger off his own ability. Actually, this is super strong, right? We'll add the counter to the Stirring Wildwood, because the Stirring Wildwood can become a creature, and these are +1/+1 counters. So Stirring Wildwood is actually super strong with Black Panther. So I'm glad that we did the EDH rec search to basically find all of the under $10 lands that make sense to add in these colors. Go to the next turn, play the forest that we revealed. Probably play this. That'll give us another counter here. We could swing with Black Panther. I mean, a 2/2 first strike is decent in my mind on turn 3. Either way, we can move into the next turn. This also makes it so opponents can't cast spells on our turn, which is super strong in and of itself. We could play the Evolution Sage, add a counter, play a land, add a counter off the Proliferate trigger. Again, like, we have a decent board state. We're not dealing a ton of damage yet, but we're getting ready to, is effectively where we're at. Next turn, we did hit some ramp, so we could do this, add the counter, tap 2 for that. We still don't have a token, so there's no use in populating. But if I paid 2, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 left. So would it have been better to, instead of playing this Signet, just play Garruk, +1 him, create the Beast, nope, that's the wrong beast. I don't know why it defaulted to the Doctor Who beast, but that beast looks fucking sweet. Either way, beast comes in, adds another counter. We're holding up defenses, we're doing good. Ooh, see, this is tempting now. Because I could play this, play another forest, get a landfall to create a human warrior. The human warrior is also going to add counters. The issue is that, right, we're not really leaving mana to move these counters about or to animate the land. But I still think that, like, this is a fine board state to have in a casual game on turn 6. And we're working our way up to, honestly, just, like, doing a finish him style move. Right, because what does this cost? This costs 7. So if we draw into a land, we get it right away. If we didn't draw into a land, we'd Signet and, like, queue it up for the following turn. We'll do one more attempt at this. This is the first time we've seen less than 3 lands in opening. But with the Gallic Readers in the hand, I think I'm fine with this, right? I'd probably keep it. Let's draw for turn. It doesn't matter which we go with first. We'll throw out the forest. 2 more basics. So we do want to play on turn 2. We're going to play the plains. And I think for the sake of ramping quicker, instead of playing Black Panther, we're going to play the Gallic Readers. Follow that up with a Canopy Vista into Black Panther. Trigger Gallic Readers. I think I'm just going to create a treasure off of that. I think that's the right play. And also we get to pass out a counter. Let's just put it on the plains. I feel like the Canopy Vista is a bigger target. So we'd like to, in case our opponents are running, any kind of land destruction, not make it more tempting to blow up a land. We'll go next turn. What can we do here? We have access to 4, but I don't know that 4 is enough to do anything major. We could definitely play the Rosy Cotton. Rosy Cotton entering will create us a food token. the food token entering will let us put a +1/+1 counter onto a creature. We're going to say our commander. That'll also trigger our commander to put another counter on here, and it'll trigger the Gallic Raiders to create us another treasure. We'll keep these all kind of handy down here together. So these were all tapped in order to get out Rosy Cotton. Let's go next turn. We're not drawing any lands, which is a little rough for us. But we have access to 5 mana. So I think I would play... Well, do you... No, I think we can, right? If we pay 2 and we unlock the Doll Keeper's or Doll Maker's shop, then we spent the other 3, so that means we're losing our treasures. So we're just going to throw the one away. We're going to move this one over to here to indicate that we don't have it, but make it easy for us to create new copies of. And we would do that to move these counters. Let me just reset counters. Add and add. Now we have a 5/5 first strike. And we would have drawn a card. And we would have gained 2 life. Yeah. Swing with him. On attack, we get to create a 1/1 toy. Yeah. So, let me grab my toy token. So many tokens. The toy token entering will also beef up him. We'll create a treasure off of it entering for Gallic Raiders. We did the Rosy Cotton thing. We'll add a counter back to the plains. And this isn't, like, the ideal hand, right? I probably should have mulliganed, but I think that, like, for a starting hand that only had 2 lands, we've only drawn into 1 by turn 5. You know, we're doing okay, right? We're getting value here. But I think we are going to call it. Is there a Marvel Secret Lair commander that you would like to see a custom build around for next week? That would be... What is that, the 16th? We'll do another live stream where we do the Let's Build. And on Fridays, I post the videos going over the decks that have been built on the live stream. Go ahead and let me know. And if no one picks one, you know, I'll just pick, you know, one of the remaining ones. I know we have Wolverine and Captain America and Storm left after these 2, because I did Iron Man last week. Alright, not hearing a whole lot of feedback, and that's fine. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me on stream. We are going to call it. These live streams currently are only about an hour long, so it's about how long it takes to build and play test, you know, these decks. But if you enjoyed what you saw, you want to hang out, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for hanging out again, and I'll catch you